Welcome to the With Your Juicy Self podcast, where we help you enhance your self-care and self-love routines by providing insightful conversations, expert advice, and practical tips for a healthier, happier life. Let's get juicy, shall we? Make your self-care routine just right. Intentional actions for your well-being will define self-care, give your life new meaning. Avoid self-sabotage. Let go of the stress with all advice. You'll feel your best. This is the rhythm of your life. The Juicy by Moer by your side. Welcome to With Your Juicy Self podcast, where we dive into all things self-care. Now, let's get juicy. Today's podcast is about setting boundaries and the importance of protecting your energy by setting boundaries. We're going to talk about all things about boundaries, understanding boundaries, the importance of setting boundaries, and practical steps on how to set boundaries. Juicy by Moer Pure Black Seed Oil has the healing power. Great for digestion, boosting immunity, soothing inflammation, you name it. Replenish your body's nutrients and feel your energy return. Now back to the podcast. Okay, so now we're going to start off with understanding boundaries. Let's start with the definitions of boundaries and the different types of boundaries. The first type of boundary that we're going to talk about are physical boundaries. You know, respecting personal space and respecting the touch and preferences. Those are your physical boundaries. Another type of boundaries are emotional boundaries. You know, distinguishing between your own emotions and others. So you have to be careful and make sure your emotions are your emotions and you're not picking up on someone else's. So those are emotional boundaries. And then you also have mental boundaries. And mental boundaries are like protecting your thoughts and opinions. You know, we all have different beliefs, thoughts, and values. And honestly, that was make the world go round. We all are enriched in life because of our differences and our thoughts and our balances. And people can have their thoughts and their balances, and you should allow them to just be like, that's their thoughts and balances, and they have their right just like you have yours. Everybody does not have to agree with you. So we have those mental boundaries. And last without least, we also have spiritual boundaries. You know, your personal beliefs and your practices. You know, also, you have to maintain your own spiritual beliefs and practices. You have to be careful about just knowing who you are. You know, when you believe something, you believe something. I mean, there's a lot of people who have strong beliefs, and they believe their way is the right way and no one else's way is the right way. And you have to be careful about protecting your boundaries, especially when you engage with someone like that where they want to force their boundaries because their way is the only way. It's not true. Everybody does have their way, and we both can be right at the same time. So spiritual boundaries is another one to look forward to. So some practical daily life examples of boundaries in your daily life include, like, you just decline invitations. You know, like me, I would decline an invitation these days that I'm just not excited about. I know that if I'm going to this event or thing, it doesn't excite me, I'm gonna be bored, or I gotta just meet and be with people I just don't want to be around. You know, declining invitation is setting a boundary. Know which ones you want to go to, which one you do want to go to. That's a boundary. A boundary, for example, is not answering your work emails after a certain hour. You know, your work is your work. Even if you're an entrepreneur and a business person, you have to limit that because this can be ongoing. There's always important things always happening. However, you need to set those boundaries for your own mental space and time. There's a time and a place for that. So make a decent hour for those. That's a practical boundary for in real life. Another example is like set limits on personal conversations. Now, I know that's tough because, you know, a lot of times some of those limits happen to people who we're really close to, and they just push you past your boundaries. And you want to be nice and respectful, but you know it's not good for you. Like, oh, God, here's this conversation coming again about some stuff I know is not beneficial for me. But this is something that you're going to have to, you know, implement as you grow as a person, how to protect conversations you don't want to talk about, like gossiping or people just complaining, and it's not beneficial, or they complain about the same thing and you giving results to them, and you're not going to take those advices, and they just wasting your dead space, and your time is unproductive. So protect yourself with these conversations that's not healthy for you. You know what I mean? Even if it's unhealthy, if it goes against whatever your current goal is. I mean, it could be a decent conversation for another time sometimes. You know what I mean? So the boundaries of conversations. Yes. So we're going to dive into some more deep talk about different boundaries and how you can benefit and protect yourself. Hey nail biters, Juicy by Moer Cuticle Oil heals with black seed oil, nourished with grapeseed and vitamin E, and comes in 6 juicy scents like strawberry lemonade and lemon eucalyptus. Get your nails back on track. Now back to the podcast. Now you have rows of boundaries in your relationships, and you can define like how close somebody is to you based on their boundaries that you set for them. Like, like my kids or my parents, there's certain people who have plenty of access. Technically, they can call 24 hours a day in emergencies until they break the boundaries where they're calling me, 24 hours a day, and it's not even emergency. But there's some people you have to define, they can't, like office people. You don't really want to have conversations with people you work with about business stuff outside of business hours. That defines the proximity and the importance of the relationship. Or there are certain people who, like you say, you kind of do feel away, and they kind of keep you in place because, you contact them outside the relationship, outside their boundaries, and you're like, oh, wow, we're not as close as I thought we were. But it is what it is. You have to take notice, and everybody shouldn't have full access to you all types of the time. You have to define and set boundaries based on how you're defining the relationship, how important they are to you, or how important they are not to you. People who aren't important shouldn't get the type of access of the most important people. And you all have to define what's important and what's not important. There's no judgment. You get to choose. Now, why boundaries are essential? First of all, we need to protect our energy. Protecting your emotional boundaries helps to prevent emotional burnout. You need to protect one's emotional and mental energy. One of the things that shows up as far as something you might need to protect is your emotional labor. Emotional labor shows up is when you're in these scenarios where you have to present your emotions one way. However, it's incongruent to how you truly feel. I mean, it shows up a lot of times in our daily life when we just have to, put on that happy face at work, or even as a mom, and we not always feel 100% or always happy-go-lucky. However, you can't show your true emotions, like something else is happening in your life that you're sad, but you can't present that to the public, And so if you're too often out of alignment with your emotions, it can start you into emotional burnout because, our emotions are healthy. You have to express them. But you need to try to let these things in your life, your daily tasks, they should be at least incongruent as much, because when you're so out of sync, it becomes an emotional labor, and it can show up as burnout. Now, one of the next things you have to do is enhance your personal well-being. Let's talk about some different types of how you can do that. Protecting and enhancing your well-being is all about self-care and self-respect. There's a lot of importance in saying no without guilt. Now, this is an ongoing task because it depends on who you are. It's always easy to tell a stranger no. But you got your cute kids, and they perfected how to ask mommy, please, and telling them no. But, you have to, because it's self-care and self-respect. There's certain people, you have to tell them no. Else you're losing respect for yourself, and they know it. They know they can come to you and ask you for whatever, borrowing money. They low down. They give you all the blues. They're like almost professional manipulators. But you have to get very, very good at saying no without guilt. That's their responsibility. It's not yours. It's a no. It's a no. So let's practice more self-care and self-respect. Just know, when you tell too many people too many yes, you don't even respect yourself. I don't know who I'm talking to, but a yes sometimes is disrespect to your own self and your personal boundaries and maintaining that personal well-being. So boundaries can help improve relationships. You know how boundaries can create healthier, more respectful relationships? When it's clear where people stand. A lot of times there's a lot of confusion in relationships because people are not clear about where they stand. You know, people are calling people friends, and how people define friends are different from person to person. They're calling people fake family. I mean, all these different definitions are so relative to everybody's experience. So you have to make your relationships clear and the boundaries clear. By just having titles doesn't mean much, because we all come from different backgrounds, different experiences, and all these things mean different things to different people. And so creating that boundaries and letting people know, you know, it's not that, we're not that close, or don't give them best friend titles. But you have to be careful, because there's a lot of people who are manipulative and they like to call people best friends because they're trying to, they have an agenda. But you don't be that person. You know, if somebody call you a best friend and you're not their best friend, hold up. You know what I mean? You have to say that, find out it's respectfully, but don't, if that's not what you want to be, you need to let people know. You know, because if you do that, this is going to prevent resentment and conflict in the future. There could be some conflict and resentment where, you know, there's people who say they're manipulating, they're calling themselves your best friend, and you're taking them at face value, and you go to ask them something and you notice that their response is, it's not that deep. You know what I mean? You're only best friend because I need a birthday gift and I want you to go to this birthday party or go on this birthday trip, and you got a lot of money. And I think you'll make a good person to go on my birthday to celebrate me. You know what I mean? You have to, these people aren't your best friend. You have to look at all the different things that's going on to define how you're showing up for them or how they're showing up for you. You know, if you're clear, like, you know, that this relationship is what it is, they haven't made it that close into your onion of the relationship, they're not that close to you, you can't get mad. And also, you know, when this kind of relationship, sometimes people, the closest goes, it is in a wave. It goes up and down. People, we all have these different ups and downs as a person, and you got to just know where you stand in the moment. Some people are not capable of showing up with you, to you in a certain way in certain parts of that aspects of their life, and it has nothing to do with you. It's like they might have so much going on, they can't show up like they used to when they didn't have any children or any spouse or money issues or different things going on in their life. So, you know, you have to create these boundaries and define who people are and try to prevent as much, in least amount of conflict as possible. What are the different signs that people are violating your boundaries? Because sometimes you don't even know what your boundaries are, but your body will tell you. There's certain violation signs, like you'll feel drained. There, more than likely, you know, there's some kind of boundaries that's being crossed that you need to be paying attention. Or you're overwhelmed. Particularly, you know, you interact with people and you're overwhelmed, you're drained. Or another boundary violation, you just feel like you're being taken advantage of. Like, are you using me? Are you taking advantage of me? You know, when you have that, it's time to set some new boundaries, because clearly you're not feeling good. And anytime you're in a relationship, for the most part, you should feel pretty decent about it. You shouldn't have too much of these negative feelings. You know, there's sometimes we do things for people that we really care about and we really don't want to, which is okay. But it's when it's overwhelming and draining that it's time to take and check the relationship, the boundaries that you're setting, and just reset. It happens all the time. You have to reevaluate. You know, some other sub-style ways to know that you are, people are breaching your boundaries are, you know, they're asking you intrusive questions. You know, those questions like, people want to know, how much you pay for your car? What? Go Google it. Or they want to know how much you pay on your mortgage. That's crazy. You know what I mean? Maybe it's okay. depending on the situation, but I think sometimes people do be trying to calculate your monies or trying to figure out something. You know, they're asking intrusive questions, or they want to know how much do you weigh. Not everybody's wearing their weight on their sleeve. You could see them. You know, you don't need to know how much I weigh, you know. Or, you know, there's people who also can breach your boundaries because they're physically encroaching on your space, you know. You know, they're hugging and kissing and if you feel uncomfortable. Or I was at the concert the other day and the one lady's ass was all in my face. I mean, it felt you know, at sometimes like, wait a minute, this is too much. Like I didn't pay for all this butt to be in my face. You know, there's different type of physical boundaries that you have to set, but acknowledge them and then make a change. Give your skin the juicy love it deserves with Juicy by Moer Body Oil, healing black seed oil, nourishing olive oil, and 7 delicious scents like orange honey and serenity spa. Perfect for morning and night. Coming soon from cart to home. Now back to the podcast. Now, different ways of setting healthy boundaries. The first thing you need to do is complete a self-assessment. You need to identify areas that you have your boundaries that needs to be addressed. So self-assess. You know better than anybody else where are those areas that need to be addressed. And then you need to self-assess and recognize the personal triggers and the limits that needs to be addressed. So sit down, write out the boundaries that you know that got you overwhelmed or making you feel drained. And write a new boundary and test it out. So what are some communication strategies of how you can effectively communicate your boundaries? For example, you use more I statements. Like, I feel unproductive when you call and we talk about the same issues over and over and over again. You know, like, let's give an example, like at work. You can say, I will not be available for phone calls after 6 p.m. Or like say for like family, I appreciate your advice. However, I like to make my own decisions. This is a complete thought. These are effective communication strategies for creating boundaries. Use that I statement. Juicy by Moer Lip Oil with healing black seed oil. Moisturize, shines, and heals with natural grapeseed and vitamin E. Try all 6 flavors like berry lemonade and orange citrus. Look like an Arabian goddess. Now back to the podcast. So also when it comes to boundaries, you have to handle any pushbacks. You know, when you start showing up differently and putting in boundaries and limitations, there's people who might push back with you. You have to deal with it. Say, for example, you have a busy work week and you told you people close to you who normally call you during your work hours, disturbing you, like, I cannot take calls this week. And they just slip up and call you anyway. Do not answer that phone call. Do not. You push back and maintain those boundaries. And then some of these people, they might guilt you into feeling bad because you didn't show up in a way that they wanted you to, because it doesn't benefit you. But you have to set those limitations. You have to. You know, it's all about self-care and self-love. You know, a lot of people want to say like they want you to love them more than you even love yourself, and that's just not healthy. You know, you're going to be outside your emotional energy. You're going to feel drained when you're putting others above yourself. Now, you can love people and treat them well, but you have to maintain that self-love, okay? And so when it comes to boundaries, you have to maintain them. Your word is your word. You know, people, you set these limitations, they call you anyway, and that's just not good enough. If you say one thing, you can't just take that call anyway when you told them you wasn't taking calls during the work day. You're not setting boundaries, you're not maintaining them. But then also when it comes to setting your boundaries and your limitations on whatever the task or the thing may be, you always have to self-assess it. Sometimes some boundaries are just temporarily. like I'm busy, I'm in a place of focus, there's a goal in place, and right now, no, I'm not doing these extracurricular dinners. No, girlfriends, we're going to have our girlfriend night out a month from now, not this week while I'm focused on getting my business to the next level. It's a temporary assessment, you know? And so with all things, our worlds and our focuses change from time to time. So you have to self-assess and change your boundaries as needed. Nothing should be that absolute. It's always ongoing. Things always change. So I hope I'm inviting you guys to self-assess those boundaries. And let's get to a healthier pace. You know, when we have those clear boundaries, we all benefit. So in conclusion, I would like to invite you to reflect on your own boundaries and assess them and take some actionable steps to improve to the next level. And then also, I would like to invite you to join our Patreon community where you can join and your monthly credits can show up and you can buy Juicy by Moer products, as you see here, in direct credit for your monthly fee. So it's like a no-lose scenario. You pay $5, you get $5 credit to purchase Juicy by Moer products. And then also, I like to express gratitude for you listening to this podcast. And I'd like to invite you, if you have any questions that you want to know, or if you have any topic suggestions, to leave a comment or inbox us with some topic suggestions. So let's stay engaged. Yes, and also follow us on social medias with the Juicy Podcast or by Juicy by Moer. And also, let's stay connected. So remember to stay juicy, set those boundaries, and take care of your juicy self. Make your self-care routine just right. Intentional actions for your well-being will define self-care, give your life new meaning. Avoid self-sabotage. Let go of the stress with all advice. You'll feel your best. This is the rhythm of